Hello, and welcome to the nonprofit world, where we highlight organizations and individuals passionate about empowering people to make a difference in the lives of others, serving in our community and around the world. I'm Paula Sorrells-Bean, your guest host for today's program. And with me, I have Ted Carroll, who is the president of Leadership Greater Hartford. Welcome, Ted, to our program.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. And we're going to talk to Ted today about Leadership Greater Hartford and what they do, the programs that they have, and some of the things that, that they're doing to benefit the community today.
Well, quite simply, our mission is to develop and connect and engage community-minded leaders to build strong and vibrant communities here in Greater Hartford. So we are a nonprofit organization that is here to serve and support the Greater Hartford region, and we do so by developing and connecting people to one another and then to the issues and challenges that we confront as a community.
Great. When and how did Leadership Greater Hartford get started?
Yeah, so we're now about 42 years old. Back in 1977, we launched the program, and it was launched by business leaders, by and large, who understood that they themselves could no longer spend the kind of time that they once spent in helping to solve our problems. They recognized that a new cadre of leaders needed to be identified, and this time it would need to be a much bigger cadre. It would be a much more diverse cadre, not just business people, but people from our neighborhoods, people from the arts organizations, people from government, people from higher education. They recognized that the problems we faced were big and challenging enough that we needed to engage the diverse talents of all people in all sectors in our region. So we needed a vehicle by which they could come together, learn about one another, learn to trust one another, build a collaborative spirit, form some partnerships. And so we've been doing that for about 42 years now.
Wonderful. Well, you've been with the organization for quite some time.
I've been with the organization for 32 of those 42 years, and actually for 33 of those years when you count the year in 1985 that I was actually a participant in one of the leadership classes. So when they offered me the job the year after I participated, I thought, oh, this would be a neat thing to do for 3 to 5 years, but as it turns out, sometimes you land in a job that matches your values, your interests, to some extent my skill set, and certainly has introduced me to some of the finest, most generous, most skilled people I know. And there is something about our mission that tends to attract some of the very best people around. So who wouldn't want to hang out with them whenever they have a chance? So I have been here a lot longer than I had anticipated, but the organization has continued to change, to evolve, to diversify, so the challenges, the opportunities just keep popping up, and the job remains extraordinarily interesting.
That's great. That's wonderful. How does Leadership Greater Hartford benefit the community?
Well, in lots of different ways. I mean, there is nothing that we can do in our community without leadership. We absolutely need people who feel inspired, who feel skilled, to take on the job of helping to tackle the various challenges and just seize the various opportunities that exist. Now, leaders don't do that work by themselves. They are focused on identifying and developing others who would join them in that task. But it begins with helping people identify what are the opportunities that they are called to lead, and will they summon the courage to take on those opportunities, and can they inspire others to join them. And so what we have now are literally thousands of people who have participated in our program, who are much more likely to both see and seize opportunities where their particular leadership gifts are being called for. One of the ways in which our community benefits is by having a very large group of citizen leaders who are now both willing and able to step up and to help make our region the very best it could be. I'll be very specific about one of the ways in which that happens. As we were sharing before we went on the air, one program that we offer is called Leaders on Board. Many of our nonprofit organizations have a hard time attracting and keeping qualified people to serve on their board, and people who come from diverse perspectives, people who are who have the skill set, the knowledge base, the connections to help make that particular nonprofit strong and effective. So for the last 8 years or more, we've been helping to enlist and then prepare people to serve on the boards of nonprofit agencies. So to date, we have something like 650 people who've been placed on boards, 35% of whom come from minority backgrounds. And we have been able to place them on something like 140 some different nonprofit organizations, arts organizations, economic development organizations, youth service organizations, you name it. There is a plethora of nonprofit groups who are very strong, but who need new and fresh faces to serve on their governing bodies to be the very best that they can be.
I think that's great. Coming from a nonprofit background myself, having been executive director for a couple of different nonprofits, I know the benefits of training board members, because a lot of times they come on totally blind to what they're getting into.
Yeah.
They don't know the legal ramifications as well as just what they are supposed to do as a board member. So I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, so we provide that kind of orientation on the front end. You're right, sometimes people serve on boards for a long time and never were really introduced to what it means to be a board member. It's a very serious role, the fiduciary role, the legal role, the strategic role. So we provide people with some guidance up front. We even equip them with the questions they should be asking nonprofits who might be trying to get them onto their boards, so that we want to make sure they make a good choice. And to date, we have been largely successful with the people who've been placed on boards. Those have worked out very well.
Great. John Maxwell is one of my favorite leadership mentors or trainers, and he has the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, and number 10 of those 21 is the law of connection. And just from attending this breakfast that I attended with you this morning, I see that you have some different ways of connecting. Can you tell us about some of those ways that you connect with leaders in the community?
Well, it's interesting you point that out. A couple of years ago, we did a market study to try to understand what is our impact in the community, which was the first question that you asked. Well, when people think of leadership Greater Hartford, there are three words that come to them most often: community, leadership, but the third one was connection. It is what we have been able to do is introduce people to one another that they might not ever have heard about, might not have ever imagined working with, let alone becoming friends with. Part of what our challenge is, both as a region and as a world, is that we can be so siloed, we can be so divided. One of the real strengths of our organization is we help build bridges that connect people to one another, that transcend the boundaries of economics, of education, of profession, so that people come to understand that they actually live in a shared region with a shared future, and that it's up to all of us, each of us, to contribute to that. But to do so in partnership with one another, because quite honestly, the problems are much too large and complex to be solved by any one person. We will absolutely need to have the resources, the perspectives, the energies of people who are different from us. But in the first instance, we have to get them in the same room. We've got to get them understanding that they have far more in common than not, and to help build the trust that's required to get things done. Robert Putnam wrote a wonderful book called Bowling Alone, and he used a term called social capital. Healthy communities need lots of social capital. And social capital he defined as sort of that trust that exists among members of a group. And so we're in the business of actually producing social capital, the trust, the grease that helps to make all of the wheels in the community work better. You know, we can't have enough social capital, and so we're going to be at this work for quite a long time, I think.
Great, great. Tell us a little bit about some of the other programs that you have.
Well, we're best known for the program in which I participated back in 1985, and the program is the one that got Leadership Greater Hartford started in the first place. We now call it Quest, but it's a group of about 50 people, usually about half from business and half from nonprofit, governmental, and other settings. And they come together for a year-long experience aimed at helping them understand their leadership style, their leadership skills, helping them to learn what collaborative decision-making group process is all about, how to work in diverse teams, and how to harness their particular energies and group efforts around issues that, if they could tackle them, would make a difference in this community. So giving them opportunities to practice them in real time around real issues. And so we do that for early, mid-career professionals. We have opportunities for executives, both those new to the area as well as those who want a deeper understanding of what leadership really is all about and how they can partner with other senior level leaders. We have programs for people in their later careers, particularly those who want to switch into from a business job into a nonprofit or community job. We call that Encore Hartford. We do that in conjunction with UConn. We also offer opportunities for people who are retired. We call it the Third Age Initiative. Now that your kids have grown up and maybe you no longer work or have to work, you have opportunity in your life to continue to learn and to serve and to stay connected. We love offering that opportunity for our retirees and other older adults. Okay. And then at the other end of the age spectrum, we begin as early as high school. Both summer programming and school year programming. For high school students, we do semester-long efforts for those in their college years. We've launched young professional efforts. The idea is to recognize that leadership is a lifelong journey. It begins early and it never stops. And so we want to be there for people at every station in their life and to help them advance to the next level and to help them achieve what it is they might want to achieve.
Great. Do you have a favorite of the types of the programs that you offered? Is there one that you just are passionate about and just would be your favorite program?
I'll take a pass on that one since I'm absolutely committed to all of them and to all of the fine staff who support those programs. But I truly do think that all of those pieces are needed in order to create the entire mosaic that's required. I wouldn't want to pull any piece from that particular mosaic.
Mm-hmm. How did you get started in the nonprofit sector?
Oh, well, thanks. It probably began in high school when I had opportunities to study about communities. I was fascinated by how communities work. And so when I went on to college, I studied sociology. My master's work was at the School of Social Work, where I became a community organizer. I had a couple of wonderful internships, one of which led to my first real job, I would say, running a community service agency in Hartford South End. And then I was smitten. As challenging as it is, and you would know this from having run nonprofits, it also offers incredible opportunity and some wonderful, powerful moments, which has been the conversation during these last several weeks when we've talked about what the power of critical moments might be. running nonprofit organizations has provided me insight, it's provided me moments of pride, it has certainly offered me opportunities to connect in meaningful ways, both with my passions and with other people who care about the things I care about. So it's been a great career and one that I expect to continue for at least a little longer.
Wonderful. Any regrets?
No regrets, actually. I've made lots of mistakes, but as you know, you learn a lot from your mistakes. And anytime you take on a big challenge, you're going to make some mistakes, you're going to come up short. And so I just recognize that that's part of it. But no, fortunately, no regrets. And I hope I can live my life without regret.
That's great. That's wonderful. One of the things that that drew me to, I was invited to come to the breakfast this morning, but one of the things that got me really excited about coming is the book that you're doing, teaching or reading from or teaching the leaders here, is The Power of Moments. And on your website it says, a must for your leadership toolkit. Tell us why you think that The Power of Moments is a must.
Well, I think the whole book is designed to help us understand why moments are so important and how we can maximize the opportunities that critical moments offer. And that's particularly helpful for leaders to understand because we need to empower and inspire people. And the book offers strategies, tips on how you can do that, how you can keep people encouraged. The thing about leaders is that they take on big deals, big projects. You don't need leaders for the small stuff. You need them for the big stuff. But that requires the efforts and the energies of lots of people. And because it can often take a long time to achieve these big things, you have to be able to encourage people along the way, seize upon those critical moments in the path to elevate and celebrate and affirm all the people who are participating with you. And so, yeah, it's part of the toolbox. If you're serious about leading others, you have to understand what it is they need and how it is you can meet those needs.
Okay, great. What types of measurements do you have for success with the various programs that you have?
Well, you know, simply stated, did we enroll people in the program? Did they feel like they had a satisfying experience? Those are a couple of simple ones, but frankly, they only measure short-term success. More often lately, we've been saying, how do we measure long-term significance? And the way I like to think about it is, has this region we call Greater Hartford, has it become a place where we have an abundance of leaders? And we have an abundance of leaders who are inspired, who are trained, who feel hopeful, who are comfortable working with diverse individuals who understand and appreciate the value that each of us brings. Are they more likely than not to summon the courage to do the hard work that's required? Those are hard to measure, but that's the barometer that we need to be focused on. And only if those needles move in the right direction will Greater Hartford be able to be all that it is destined to become.
Okay. How would people get in touch with you to find out more about your organization and what you're doing and when different programs are offered?
The simplest thing is to just go to our website, leadershipgh.org, leadershipgh.org. We fortunately were able to revamp our website a year and a half ago, and so it's hopefully very user-friendly, very informative, and will enable you to learn about our programs, our events, about opportunities to get involved, to become members, to become donors. All of that is readily identified. And honestly, we're an organization that doesn't want to keep anybody out. We want to welcome as many people as possible. There are some leadership organizations, quite honestly, that want to make it, if you will, a kind of an elite body. Our view is anybody who wishes to develop their skills and build their connections in service to the common good, they're welcomed, and they'll find a place to learn and grow and connect.
Wonderful. Any last, before we close, any last words that you want to say to our listeners?
I think take the first step. Take the leap. You know, leadership is a journey, but it takes a certain amount of courage and initiative to take that first step. And the first step may well be look us up online, find out what's going on, and give us a call or attend one of our events. And we're convinced that you will not regret having taken that first step.
Wonderful. Ted, it's great to have you with us on the Nonprofit World today. Thank you so much.
I appreciate
for
the
your
opportunity,
time.
Paula.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you.
Reach the unreachable star. This is my quest to follow that star. No matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this. That one leader, stormed and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star. Thank you.
Leadership Greater Hartford is a 40-year-old organization that is a nonprofit group that is focused on a simple mission to train and connect diverse leaders, both established leaders and emerging ones like the students who participate in Common Ground. We connect them together to build strong communities.
I'm the director of the Common Ground program, one of our youth programs at Leadership Greater Hartford. It's an inter-district leadership program that brings together students from all over. We have some schools here in Hartford and surrounding towns. And the students come to me once a week and they learn leadership development, they learn life skills, and they learn from one another and about the Hartford as a whole.
So Common Ground got started some 30 years ago when a group of established leaders were completing their own leadership training experience, and they said to themselves, this was a wonderful experience for us, but it would be even better for this community if we created a similar program for young people, because you can't start too early. The leadership journey must begin at least by high school if we're to ensure that we have a strong, vibrant, diverse cadre of committed leaders for tomorrow.
Prior to the program, I wasn't really confident in my speaking or leadership abilities, but I think after that it really reinforced it, and I'm a lot more confident speaking in front of large groups of people and the ability to lead projects. I've seen the difference immediately just working on school projects afterwards, after the program.
Yeah, I definitely think Common Ground has changed my life for the better. It's really opened my eyes to the fact, especially to aspects of the community that can help bring people together and can help aid in leadership, like diversity and culture and race, and how you can use those different things to your advantage and build a really strong community off of it.
What they do is, my students and what I've seen from my kids is that they want to then take over. The sky's the limit for them, especially, the kids that are part of the program that graduate and then come to me and say, I want to go back. They form real bonds with Mr. Santiago. They form wonderful friendships with kids from West Hartford, from Glastonbury. They are, thinking of college when they weren't originally. They are thinking of jobs. They're thinking of possibilities that they never thought of when they started the program. So I believe in Common Ground 100%. Absolutely.
Common Ground has indeed changed my life in ways I cannot even imagine to explain. It's given me more confidence, a greater skill set, more flexible personality. It's shown me my own flaws, and it's just increased my perspective on life immensely from many different angles.
I would encourage parents, auntie, grandparents, it doesn't matter who it is, to allow your child or children to have the opportunity of the leadership. It allows them to grow, build their self-esteem. It allows them to unite with other cultures, other backgrounds. We allow them to go out there and do what they want, a part of their dreams, knowing that they don't have to be afraid, they don't have to be shy, and at the same time, we'll watch our individual, our children grow and be who they want to be.
Our hope for the graduates of the Common Ground program is that they continue their leadership journey throughout their college years and into their workplace years, where we expect that they will stand out as leaders in their workplace, but also in their community. And we have evidence that people have been very successful later on in their career, and they have credited their experience in Common Ground as being very formative to that success.
Hello, and welcome to the nonprofit world, where we highlight organizations and individuals passionate about empowering people to make a difference in the lives of others, serving in our community and around the world. I'm Paula Sorrells-Bean, your guest host for today. And with me, I have Greg Hammond. And Greg, tell us about the companies that you have and what you're doing.
Sure. So currently I'm the CEO of Hammond Wealth Advisors, which has its main office in Wethersfield, Connecticut, and also the CEO and president of Plan Giving Strategies, a consulting firm that works with nonprofit organizations.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit more about your planned giving strategies and what you're doing to benefit the people in the community with that.
Sure. So just to give you kind of a little bit of a background, I found when I was growing up, I had a wonderful mentor and guide, and it was my father. And although we never really had a conversation about it, he showed me through an example of his life about the importance of giving back to the community. And so I watched him as he served as the president of the Rotary Club, the treasurer of our church, the mayor of our town, or a town councilman, and the many things that he did in the community and giving back. And so growing up, I wanted to have that same impact in the organizations and community that I live and work with. And so my background as an accountant, when I moved to Connecticut, made the transition to financial services where I could help people with more than just their taxes. I felt that the challenge with individuals, and one of the things that I strive to do in my book, is that making people aware of the opportunities that they have and making a greater impact, not only with their lives, but in the organizations and causes that they care about. And so I've strived to become more active through the community, and one of the things that I found in working with nonprofit organizations is that many organizations have the need for immediate funding and have staff that are challenged with doing fundraising both for today as well as for tomorrow. But the fundraising for the future always tends to kind of go on the back burner. And so I found that as a place where I can provide some assistance in coming in and starting conversations with donors to be able to think about the opportunities that they have to support organizations through their planned giving, whether it's through their estate plan or through just the way that their investments are structured, on being able to make a greater impact. And that's what our firm Planned Giving Strategies does, is work with nonprofit organizations to start conversations. Whether it's encouraging them to talk to their own advisors or to talk to the development professionals with each organization.
Wonderful. Now you mentioned your book, and I like the title, You Can Do More That Matters. Tell us a little bit about how what motivated you to write the book, and tell us a little bit about what the book is about.
Sure. So as I started working with nonprofit organizations and having presentations and talking to their donors, I realized that as an individual, I have a limited amount of time that I can speak to people. And so I wanted to take that message and put it in the form of a book that could be more widely shared with an audience. And so I sat down in 2013 and wrote the book, You Can Do More That Matters, and I brought in a co-author of mine, Ron Ware, who has his own firm that does very similar work with nonprofit organizations in the Boston area. He comes to the profession with a legal background, and I come to the profession with a tax background, and so it was a good partnership in bringing different perspectives to individuals and organizations. So we wrote the book to accomplish a couple of different things. One is to be used by the donor to read and be able to realize that there are some opportunities that they may want to look at and take a look for their own self. But also as a tool for nonprofit organizations to be able to hand that out and be able to start the conversation. Because any planned gift or donation, it all comes down to starting with a conversation. And that's what we wanted to do. And one of the taglines that we use for our organization, Planned Giving Strategies, is that we start conversations.
That's great. That's wonderful. And that's where it starts, is with the conversation, right?
Absolutely.
That's great. So you work with churches and nonprofits. Do you also work with individuals and corporations, or are you mostly in nonprofits and churches?
So from my personal time and effort, I certainly serve on a number of boards and support a number of different organizations. I've followed in my dad's footsteps and have been the treasurer of my church in West Hartford for the last 18 years. And have also strived to make an impact in the community. Our firm, Hammond Wealth Advisors, back in 2006, actually adopted Connecticut Children's Medical Center as our charity of choice in supporting that with fundraising through our clients and events that we hold throughout the year. But also working with various organizations around the Hartford area, have really strived to increase the impact that each of them have with their donors.
Great. Do you help people with their fundraising events? Is that part of what you do, or is that?
Most of what I do, as I said, is starting conversations. So many times that is in the form of a presentation that may be at an event or a small group luncheon, where I'm able to come in and have a conversation with those in attendance to make them aware of the opportunities available to them. Other times I'm available as a resource for organizations, whether it is questions about different strategies on putting planned giving in place, or having a donor that may have a level of planning that requires someone from the outside to come in. One of the things that I have found in working with organizations is many times donors may have multiple organizations that they want to benefit with their donations. And so sometimes it's, I think, a better opportunity to possibly bring in an outside person that can help them realize the gifts for all the organizations that they want to benefit. And the organization that makes that introduction, what I find, usually benefits from doing so.
Okay. What is your ultimate goal with your book, having your book out there? What is the ultimate goal for your readers?
The ultimate goal is to make the reader aware of the things that are holding them back. Many times there are individuals in the world, I hate to say it, but many times financial services individuals are a hindrance because they're compensated by the investments that they're managing. So it's kind of a conflict of interest to encourage people to give money away. So in some cases it's just our industry as a whole, but also to make people aware that they really can make a bigger impact through proper planning. I think that many people say, well, I'm not Bill Gates, I'm not Warren Buffett, I don't have the billions of dollars to make an impact, when really through proper planning we can leverage their current investments to make a greater impact. I like to think of it as a pie, and that many times when people look at their net worth and the impact that they want to have, they carve off a piece for their family members that they want to make sure that their children or grandchildren are going to inherit. They want to certainly make sure that they're taken care of during their retirement. And so then they have this little sliver that's left over for impact in the organizations that they care about. But through proper planning, we can actually take that pie and make it bigger by redirecting what may go to taxes to redirect it to nonprofit organizations to make an impact. Many times what people don't realize is that through planning we can create more income for them during retirement while leaving more to their children and making a greater impact on the causes and organizations that they care about.
Great, great. Now, is your target market primarily the Hartford area, or do you reach out to people beyond even Connecticut? I mean, could somebody from another area contact you and get help even if they can't sit one-on-one with you in your office?
That's a great question. My financial services firm, we actually work with individuals in 32 states. So whether it's through people retiring and moving to new areas, or just being introduced to somebody in another location, we're able now, especially with technology, to be able to work with anybody pretty much almost anywhere in the world.
Yeah, with Zoom and other ways you can actually be face to face with them,
yes.
and talk with them. So that's wonderful. That's great. What kind of measurements do you have in place for to determine success of whether or not people are doing more with the things that matter? I mean, do you have any kind of measurement that in place for that?
Well, for each individual, that measurement of success is going to be different. And I think that's one of the challenges for most of us, is that we don't take the time to think about what does success look like. You know, it's a scary statistic that most people spend more time planning their vacation than they do planning their life.
That's true.
You know, we take this time to focus on what do we want to accomplish in that 2-week vacation, rather than really thinking about what's going to happen for the next 30 years. What's the legacy that I want to have and the impact that I want to have. And so I think the first step is encouraging individuals to stop, think, and plan about the impact that they want to have. And so what does that end result look like? You know, I heard a tremendous sermon one Sunday that talked about when you pass away, what do you want people to line up to thank you for? And so it's taking the time to think about that impact, and really where nonprofits come into the picture, again, starting with a conversation, is reminding people to think about that. Because once they sit down with their donors and think about what that success looks like, you can then find where does their organization meet up and match in with that to create that impact that they want to have. And so that's the biggest key, is getting people to stop and think about what the end result looks like.
Well, I'd like to see a program like this even for young people, high school, college age. Have you given any thought to having anything like that for the younger generations to begin to stop and think about how they want to give back to the community that's given to them?
Well, I do have two daughters, one in high school and one in college, so I do have some real life experience with that at home. But one of the things I am truly amazed about with millennials and this next generation that's kind of really coming into the workforce is that they really do have a sense of social justice and the reason that they want to make an impact in the world. We see that through many dual-purpose corporations that now have a social bottom line in addition to their own financial bottom line, whether it's Tom's Shoes or other organizations that not only have a business purpose but also a social purpose. I think we're seeing that tide turn with younger generations of really wanting to make an impact. So hopefully as elders to them, hopefully we can encourage that and help support that to continue on through their lifetimes.
Great, wonderful. I met you, Greg, this morning at the Leadership Greater Hartford breakfast, and so tell me how you got involved with this with the Leadership Greater Hartford and how that has benefited you.
Well, for me, when I look at my strengths, one of the things that comes is that I'm a continual learner. I'm always trying to learn more things and constantly listening to content and reading books. And so I was really introduced to Leadership Greater Hartford through their Lessons in Leadership program. Several years ago, that was my introduction to the organization through the book that they discussed at that point in time. And when they talked about the recent program around the power of moments, it just attracted me again to reconnect and become more involved in the organization.
Wonderful. Glad to hear that. How would people get in touch with you, and specifically, how would they find out about your book, and where can they purchase it?
Sure. So my book is available on Amazon, both in a print copy as well as audio, if you'd like to listen to books in the car like I do quite frequently as I'm commuting. You can also go to our website, which is just doingmorethatmatters.com, where you can find out more about me, my firms, and the book. Wonderful.
Wonderful. Well, is there anything else that you would like to add to tell our listeners about your organization, about your book, about the benefits to the community when they do more of what matters?
Sure. I think, again, one thing I'd like to point out is on that website we do have resources for nonprofit organizations.
Great.
One of the things that I think in starting that conversation is having the right questions. You're a wonderful interviewer, and so it's having some questions like, if I were to wave a magic wand and alleviate all of the financial concerns for you, what would you do more of? And things like that. So we have a list of questions that individuals can not only ask themselves, but nonprofit organizations may want to keep in their toolbox. Also, as just, again, to remind everyone, whether it's for ourselves or whether it's for your organization, is encouraging individuals to stop, think, and plan about doing more that matters. It's important to know what that final destination looks like, Just like the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And so it's important to think about that final destination, the impact that you want to have not only with your life and on the family, but the organizations that you care about.
Okay. Can you tell us just a little bit more about the Stop, Think, and Plan, about each of those 3 steps? What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, by stop, I find that many of us were on this treadmill of life, in that days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months, and months turn into years, and all of a sudden we turn around and we look back and we're like, well, where did that year go? Where did that month go? And so it's important that we make a conscious effort to stop what we're doing and dedicate some time, whether it's taking a walk or sitting and having a cup of coffee on a Sunday morning, and thinking about kind of what we want to do. One of the exercises that we talk about in my book, You Can Do More That Matters, is a newspaper exercise. In that, sit down with a Sunday paper and 3 different markers or highlighters, and go through it and circle all of the things that make you happy. Take a second color and go through and circle all the things that make you sad. And take the third color and go through and circle all the headlines that make you angry. And by looking and pulling those titles or headlines together, you'll start to see a pattern of things that are very dear to your heart, that you're passionate about. And so that can be one way of just thinking about the things that you want to have a greater impact on. So I know there's always this talk about, well, find your passion, and that's always a difficult thing to do, but using a simple exercise like that and paying attention to the things that either make you really angry or make you sad or really happy to support is an easy way of starting to get in touch with the things that you want to have an impact with.
I like
And
that.
then, of course, kind of like the theme from Nike, then you just do it. Because you come to that plan, you know where you want to have an impact. It doesn't do anything if you don't take any action. So it's important to stop and plan about taking that step. And certainly that can be a little bit daunting, but plan the first thing. If I was going to accomplish that end goal, what's the first step for me to get there? And it may be doing some research for nonprofit organizations that have an impact on the lives of children, or I feel strongly about hunger in the world, so what are some organizations that deal with that issue? So just by coming into a term of understanding what you want to have an impact on, you can take that next step on just finding the organization initially, and then hopefully through a conversation with them can take the next step on how to move forward in supporting them and their organization.
Great. Thank you for sharing that with us. I like those 3 steps. I'm going to have to try those myself. I like that. All right. Do you want to share again what your website is?
Sure. So you can reach us and look at the book at doingmorethatmatters.com, or our firm plannedgivingstrategies.com, or hammondiles.com. That's HAMMONDILES.com.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for being on our program today, Greg. And I just appreciate having you here. And I'm excited. I want to go out and get your book and learn more about that.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. And thank you for joining us today. I'm Paula Sorrells-Bean with the Nonprofit World, encouraging you to find your passion and make a difference in someone's life today. Thank you for joining us.
What if I told you could save the lives of 2 billion people? All too often we allow our lives to unfold with very little thought on the impact we could have within our families, communities, and the world at large.
We allow the busyness of our lives to absorb our days, weeks, and years until we look back and realize that the time has slipped away without much to show for it.
What direction are you heading?
What impact will you have on the people, organizations, and causes you care about?
How will you be remembered? These are the questions we should all take time to think, dream, and plan for.
Our uncertainty and fears hold us back. We underestimate and misinterpret what we're capable of doing. Think about it. What is it that you said you'd do if you had more money, more time, or whatever it is you think you need more of? What hopes, dreams, and goals have you been holding back on, hoping that one day you would be able to do it? Are you concerned that doing more for others will take away from your own family?
No matter the size of your financial net worth, we all face financial and economic uncertainty. How can we begin to think differently, to stop the fear and change the way that we're doing things and the current path that we're traveling on?
Well, it has to do with our wealth. Our wealth is more than just money. It's relationships, experiences, and opportunities to do the things we have a passion for. The things that allow us to make our life print on this world.
You get just one life to live. What's the mark you want to make? What are you doing to make your mark? If you're willing to be open to new ideas and perspectives, and the possibility that you aren't really all set, then just maybe you too will be able to discover new opportunities and a bigger financial capacity to create the life and legacy you have the potential and desire for.
With careful planning, there is often more than we need to meet the needs of our family. Excess wealth, if you will.
And that's where it gets really fun, because there are only two things you can do with excess wealth. We can live more and we can give more.
Whether it's saving lives around the world, creating a secure future for yourself and your family, or helping your local community, you can gain financial peace of mind, clarity, and confidence to do what you are passionate about. You can learn more about us, our book, and the opportunities that are available to you at DoMoreThatMatters.com.
Make your life count for so much more. Plan to make a difference and lead a life that creates a lasting legacy.